Hi everyone, I'm Jerome from Art Science Museum. Thank you so much for joining us this evening as we unveil and further dissect our latest and final micro commission for this year, Prophecy by Gladys Ng, Zoea Tania, and Vivian Cole. So for those of you who have caught this series of micro shots for the first time or are tuning into our film chats for the first time, Art Science on Screen Micro Commission was launched earlier this year in a bid to keep the spirit of filmmaking alive during this difficult year. This has not only provided some of our local filmmakers with the means to continue working, but it's also an invaluable opportunity of reframing what cinema means at this age. So since the start of the dreaded circuit breaker, we've launched a total of 4 micro commissions to date. And with the briefest of briefs centered on the challenging our artists and filmmakers to be creative in their means of creating, I think the most fascinating thing is how each and every artist has responded very diversely to the current situation that we're all facing. In our first micro commission, Lei Yuanbin's film Late Spring, we see a blanket of reassurance. In Eva Tang's How Can I Tell I Miss You following that, we receive closure in longing. And in Zai Tang's collab with Rei Hayama, we got reintroduced to a vibrant world that we have long forgotten. And what a fitting way to cap off the end of this year with a film that enchants with the possibilities and anxieties of the beyond, that is a cosmic prophecy. So without further ado, let's hear from our artists of the hour and how they've approached this celestial undertaking. Let's give a warm welcome to the creators of Prophecy, Gladys Ng, Zoea Tania, and Vivian Cole. Hi Gladys, hi Zoe, hi Vivian, hello. So just a brief introduction to each artist. Gladys is a rising star in film with accomplished credits to her writing and directorial work being accoladed and featured in Tokyo International Film Festival and Singapore International Film Festival. Zoea Tania is a writer, creator, and performer with works featured in Clermont-Ferrand Film Festival and World Stage Design in Taipei. Vivian Cole, and also known as thistlemorse, is a multidisciplinary artist that performs and produces scores for films and also part of the electronic dream pop quintet Lemon Puffs, with albums distributed in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Japan. So let's start off with some questions directed to Gladys. Can you maybe just give us a bit of a background and how you've come to work with Zoe and Vivian?
So first of all, thank you for having us today and for giving us the opportunity to make this film. The process was, very trusting, so we're all very thankful for that. Yeah. So okay, as to why I decided to work with Zoe and Vivian, I've worked with each of them before. So with Vivian, she composed the track for my previous short film, Under the Same Pink Sky, and the process was surprisingly awesome, and it was really fun to work with her. And so I think when you're communicating with someone, sometimes there are things you can't express with words, but with Vivian, I feel like her instincts are very sharp and her sensibilities are very similar to mine. So a lot of the times we kind of work off each other telepathically. So that's when I realized that I really wanted to work with her again. And so when this film came along, I thought it was a great opportunity. And then with Zoe as well, she acted in my previous short film, The Pursuit of a Happy Human Life. And so in there, she had to embody a character that I had written. And she did a wonderful job bringing the character to life, with her own ideas and emotions. But this time, I wanted to work with her in a capacity where she could use her own voice, and I wanted to see her words, I wanted to see like a very certain distinct Zoe-ness coming through. So because of that, I decided to work with both of them.
Nice. And I think a lot of people who are not very familiar with your work, for those out there, so you're actually quite known for your very understated but very piercing narrative gaze of human relationships in Singapore, based on your old works like My Father After Dinner. So what was the impetus for this very adventurous turn to the experimental?
Yeah, I think most people, if they know me, would know me by my narrative short films. But in the last few years, I could feel this urge in me wanting to evolve and to try new things and new ways of working. And so again, when the opportunity to make this film came along, I felt like it was a perfect time to try out new things and to bring new ideas to the table, especially because there was a lot of freedom for us to to work on whatever we wanted to work on. And so in this process, in the process of making Prophecy, I wanted to evoke a sense of play in the process. And when I say play, I don't mean just having fun, but of course having fun is also important in creation. But play in the sense that having a sense of discovery, of being open, of being able to find out new things. And so, be it learning something new about yourself or in the way you work, I kind of hope that each of us would kind of have a shift in ourselves. And so I think not only was the end product of the film experimental, the process itself was quite experimental.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear that from you, because even when watching, there's this, again, like you mentioned, it's a really high rewatchability aspect of it. Every time you dive right into it, it's something new. You either discover something new in the frame, you discover something different about the music. You kind of like drag into this ebb and flow into this experiential, sensorial kind of thing, which is truly amazing. And we definitely agree with you on that rewatching again. So we're actually encouraging everyone to continue, keep watching it for the next few days just to discover more things. But yeah, we totally agree with you on that. And picking up from what you mentioned earlier about working with Zoe, as I understand, Zoe, that your poem is like the seed that eventually sprouted these visual and audio mediums. So maybe for the benefit of the audience, would you care to most graciously treat us with a reading of your work?
Okay, let me pull it out. Okay, I'll try my best, but yeah, I'm a bit nervous, but I'll try my best. Okay, so Prophecy. Pulling on the Vedic lines, wanting to return yet not knowing where. This was fate. It was written somewhere in hieroglyphs on the bark of a tree, or in some song pilgrims must have sung walking towards this. They sang to remember the feeling of existence pulled away from the stars, of their soul still so celestial, trembling to recall. They sang to keep their house a memento, and dreamt to the ends of mirages, every end a new loss. But loss always finds a way to interpret itself. They look and see everything anew, so they keep in the being, to dream again a new prophecy.
Thank you, Zoe. That was a really lovely reading there, and I think from there, we noticed a lot of vivid imagery in your text when you mentioned hieroglyphs, celestials, and so are these imageries fully formed processes in your existing body of work, or was this more of something that took its own form as you were writing?
It's definitely something. It's more of the latter. It was, very informed by Gladys's prompts, and also informed by the feeling that I was trying to convey while writing the poem. And I think none of these imageries, whether it's like hieroglyphs or celestials, will ever be fully formed in any of my works, because they come and then they disappear. So I think that's why it's important for me as a writer to capture them whenever they surface, because they tell me different things all the time. Yeah.
And I think jumping back to Gladys, so what were your challenges in translating poetry to film? As you can see, Zoe has her own set of imageries in mind. So how do you kind of took that and ran with it, or put your own spin to things?
I think initially when it came to working with poetry with words, I was a little bit nervous, to be honest, because in film there's a saying that says "show not tell." So rather than telling your audiences something, show it. Whether it's via performances or through the means of mise en scène. So it's ingrained in me to want to try to avoid words, to avoid telling. And so when it came to, showing words on screen, I was honestly a bit worried for a sec, but at the same time, the kind of imageries that Zoe's text evokes, I feel like visuals can never do it justice. So I came to, to respect her words for what it is, and to let it speak for itself, and to kind of create an emotional backdrop where the words can sit on. So I think during the decision making process, I felt like there was no need to literally show what's written. Rather I wanted the words and the images to kind of like play off each other. So in one of our earlier discussions with like Zoe and Vivian as well, we also talked about showing the poem in stanzas. So rather than showing it line by line, like how it is now, we wanted to show it in a stanza, so that it's easier to read. But then I also later on found out, like, I realized that the poem wasn't communicating with the images anymore. So I decided to go to the form, which is what it is now, where you kind of have like a line of text and you kind of have an image. So it kind of like work off each other this way. So that's how I kind of I guess it was trying to use film as a medium to support poetry, rather than take over it.
That's interesting to hear how you have been mapping those stanzas to the visuals. And let's go a little bit deeper about the visuals that you're talking about. So we realized that you're actually you're actually the first artist in this micro commissions lineup that actually went out to shoot material from start to finish. So maybe you can guide us a little bit deeper into this process.
So the process of making this film was really stripped down. It was just literally the three of us. So initially I had this grand idea of recreating space. And so I consulted a few friends as to how I should approach the filmmaking process. But ultimately the filming process, I did it mostly alone with some help from Nicole, who also designed the poster that we've been sharing on social media. So I guess working minimally got me thinking of creative ways to film this film. And so a lot of times I was always asking myself, how do I make the most of this commission with using like things that I already have. So then I decided to shoot on my phone. And I think that actually was surprisingly freeing, because that meant I could shoot whenever. So I could be out with friends or taking a walk somewhere with no intention to shoot, and then by chance encounter an interesting texture and then just shoot it. So it made the process really intuitive and personal. And so and after shooting, I would play around with the images in post as well to kind of push the colors to where it is now. So I guess it's about working with what we have and in really small ways.
Yeah, it was really surprising when you told us you shot this on your phone. Like, no one would have imagined that you did it with your phone. That's really amazing. So maybe you can just talking about working with what you have, right? And following on that thread as well. So Vivian, I think people often think about large studios and really high-end tech and like lofty face-to-face consultation when it comes to building a film score. But actually we'll have you know that Vivian actually did everything in her living room with also very limited resources. So maybe Vivian, could you tell us a bit more about some of the challenges you faced while working on the score? I think Vivian's probably stuck over there.
She's in a very nice pose though.
Okay, we'll get to Vivian. We'll get to Vivian in a bit, but so touching on what Gladys also mentioned about, how you communicate the idea of space in your film and the vastness of it. So Zoe, in approaching your writing for this, right? So what exactly is the cosmos to you as a writer, or the cosmic to you as a writer?
Big question. So I think it's something that I think comes up a lot in what I write. So because it comes up a lot in what I think about, and to me, I think people tend to think of the cosmos as this like grand nebulous concept, and forget that maybe we are inextricably linked to what we cannot see, and like despite what we think, like our immediate reality and the tangible surrounding, the truth is that we are always like really tied to the source of it. So to me, the cosmos is something that is like, it's almost like an important equilibrium that I always return to, whether it's like in my writing or when I'm having a really bad day and like things are going very badly. I think about, okay, what is the cosmos trying to tell me? What am I supposed to get out of a really bad situation? Yeah, that's what the cosmos is to me.
So there's this as almost astrological sort of take to how you draw these inspirations from.
Mhm.
And I also understand that tarot readings and astrology are some of your key influences in your existing body of work as well. So maybe let's get a little bit sciencey. Could you tell us a bit more about the common misconceptions you face about these topics, and how these misconceptions of astrology and tarot reading have come to inform your amazing body of work?
So misconceptions, right? I even brought my tarot deck with me, just like for good measure. So misconceptions is that I think I do go back to astrology and tarot a lot as references, or like even like just to get inspired, so I read books about them. And I think the common misconception is that you have to be very militant or black and white about it. So it's either true and then you shape your life according to what it says, or it's a sham. And I think that it's always important to give everything latitude for interpretation. So to me, it's more about treating it as a story and respecting what it wants to tell and not taking it, whole. And also, astrology and tarot are like very historical systems of knowing that dates back to like ancient civilizations. And I think that it allows people to communicate and interact with the world or listen to the world in a different way. So I think that's the misconception that we have to take it whole or kick it aside completely. But we can always be in the middle. Yeah.
That's very nice. And I think Gladys believed in what you have approached with this in your body of work enough to approach you to create this really amazing work together. So Gladys, just on that note as well, so how much do you actually have to direct your collaborators?
So as much as possible, I tried not to work very directly towards an end goal. So in that sense of direction, I wasn't really directing. So I tried to avoid being too persistent about getting somewhere. But rather, I kind of always wanted to check in with Zoe and with Vivian to make sure how they feel and to make sure they're okay with where, how the film is kind of progressing. But ultimately, I also knew that I had to take the lead. So right after I got the call to work on this commission, I approached Zoe, and I think it was at the start of the year, maybe, or was it end of last year, she released a zine of her poems. So it was actually during then when I felt like, I remember reading it and asking myself, how can we work together? I mean, is it possible for poetry and film to come together? And like maybe we don't have to to draw such distinct lines between our art practices, we can come together. So then I asked her if she would like to join me on this, and she said yes. And so to start things off, I gave her a list of words, and those words were motifs in my life. So they might be words that I heard a lot, or like words that describe how I was feeling. But they were just words that were there to help her start things off, to respond to. So, and then she was free to take what resonated with her and to create whatever she wanted. And so the result of that was this beautiful poem about loss and anxiety, and with light at the end. And so I thought that was really beautiful. Yeah. And
It's such a perfect, yeah, it's such a perfect commentary of the time. So that's really amazing, Zoe.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then when it came to Vivian, Vivian, are you coming back soon?
She's having some issues with her phone, yeah.
Yeah. So with Vivian, she came in later in the process. I asked her at the start, like soon after asking Zoe, but she came in later because I felt like it'd be better if we had something for her to work with. So when Vivian came in, I felt like there wasn't a need for her to know the initial words anymore, but to have her respond to what we were already doing, a work in progress. And so then, yeah, she went on to create this score that took us on this journey. And yeah, and so really, when it comes to collaborating, I think really, because Zoe and Vivian are so talented and so smart in their own rights, like my job really was to just hold space for them, to just let them be them. So I think ultimately collaboration is about holding space for one another.
Amazing that this is so process very, very process driven instead of fixated on a particular end product. And I think at this point we have a question from the audience, which I think you sort of answered on Gladys. And then the question is from Joe Ng, who coincidentally is one of the collaborators of the second micro commission, How Can I Tell I Miss You by Eva Tang. So Joe Ng is asking, I'm curious about the process. The process of back and forth of communicating with your collaborators is always about finding the mark. Or was there even a mark in the first place? And how do you know that the process has ended?
Yeah, it's kind of like what I said just now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, to be honest, sometimes I don't know when the process has ended. Like, how do you say, oh, I'm done making a film? Because I feel like you could always keep, finessing on different little details. But I guess in the case of this film, it was
the deadline.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
You're saying we would have seen a much more awesome one if we didn't give you a deadline, right?
Maybe it'll be.
Let's see if we can continue letting you refine this.
Or we can create new stuff too.
Oh yeah, good idea. I think we're waiting for Vivian to come back on so that we can grill her on more audio and film score related questions. So maybe let me just pose a generic question to you guys. So how has the pandemic changed the way you guys appreciate and create works from now on? Hey Vivian.
Hi.
Hello. I was just asking everyone, how has the pandemic changed the way you appreciate and create works? Maybe we can start with you first, Zoe.
How has it changed the way I appreciate the works?
Appreciate and create works.
Oh, create wise, actually, to be honest, like there was a very serious drought, I think, in the middle when it was really bad, and I don't think that I was in any state of mind to create or be creative with everything that was going on. I think it was more about responding or surviving day to day. With regards to like works and like how I appreciated things, I think a lot of like the stuff that I watch, or like even when the three of us or like and other people talk about works that we watch now, is about like things that take our minds off reality. and and yeah, and I don't think that I've ever like clung on to entertainment as I do right now, because it's so important to like sanity sometimes. So yeah.
And yourself, Gladys?
I think for me, when it comes to appreciating works or films, I think I'm kind of on the fence, because while it's nice to kind of stay in and watch films on your own devices, and I really appreciate that, because you kind of get to watch and appreciate films at your own time. I also miss sitting in a cinema. So I feel really conflicted, because I enjoy both. And I don't really know where I stand. Yeah, but when it comes to, yeah, as to creation, I think nothing much has changed for me, because I've always been working in a very small capacity. So, and I haven't been on a film set, like a big film set, since this year actually. So I can't really say what has changed. But I think my mentality has definitely changed. I think I'm definitely more um, playful with the way I approach things now. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that, Gladys. I think now it's about time for us to jump right back into Vivian. Sorry that you had to get booted out accidentally while we were asking you the question. So I think at that point of time, we were talking about how people often think about film scores involving really large sets and a lot of high-end tech and a lot of face-to-face consultation. But then you did everything with quite limited resources and in your own living room. So can you maybe just tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges you faced while working on this particular film score?
Yeah, like I did record everything in my living room, but I feel like I'm more comfortable with working in my living room as opposed to like formal studio, because when I create, I think I need specific to be in a specific frame of mind, and I need space to think and feel, and like not feel pressured by I don't know, studio time or like resources. So yeah, that's that. But like, I feel like the more of the struggles that I faced is more like it was like more work with the project itself, like finding a balance between creating something that complements the text and visuals, but at the same time not being too directive, because we also like, I mean, Grace and I spoke a lot about that, like in the various versions of like my sound design. It's like so that there can be room for the audience to interpret work as well. Yeah. So I think that was more of the struggle rather than like technical struggles.
Yeah, and I think the main thing about the amazing part of what you have added on to this particular work is that because while Zoe's work was like the seed that kind of like germinated all Gladys's subtle visualizations, that is like this grand destination, it was actually your really amazing score that kind of is the euphoric vehicle that lifted the entire piece. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for everyone, but you should all really have caught this before you jump on this chat. So, Vivian, can you maybe tell us a little bit more about how you've approached this sonically, like your influences on communicating this very cosmic, celestial vibe to this entire film?
I think like I was mainly influenced by the text and the images itself. Like I didn't want to overthink the whole process too much. I wanted it to be more intuitive. So something like reacting to what I was reading and seeing, and then trying to capture the impression that I got from that and translating it into like the sound design and seeing how I can express that sonically rather than in other ways. Yeah. Yeah. I think generally I use a lot of heart and soul when I make my work. I don't try to think too much, otherwise I feel like it restricts the entire process more than enables it. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Vivian. Maybe just a question for all of you as well. So do you guys think that a film shot on the phone, for the phone, is still considered a film? Because we know there are some really diehard cinephiles out there that, you know, like what's Roger Deakins, who would scoff at the idea of shooting on the phone and viewing films on the phone. So what do you guys think about that?
Oh, I think
For us,
it's still a phone leh. It's still a film leh.
to be honest, I didn't even know that was being shot on the iPhone until Gladys put out the Instagram post. Then I was like, what? I didn't even know it was shot on iPhone. Yeah. So I don't think it matters. I mean, for me at least, I feel like a film is beyond like just the way it was being shot, you know. And we are all progressing. Like we have to move on together with technology. You know, we cannot just keep. I mean, film
That
is
is another.
a thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Gladys, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I totally agree with Vivian. I was also going to say that people usually can't tell that it's shot on a phone unless I said it's shot on a phone. So, yeah, it's to me it's a film, but also it's okay if someone else doesn't consider it a film. That's also totally fine. Yeah.
And Zoe?
Me, as long as people enjoy it, I think that's cool. And you know, a book on a tablet is still a book. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So the medium doesn't matter, but the content does, I guess,
Yeah.
in summary. So I think let's put a pause on all these potential spoilers for people who haven't actually caught the film yet, and we move on to this segment that we've been doing for the last few conversations called rapid fire questions, very fun stuff. Generally for people who are just quite capable about your personal life but are too shy to ask, so I've put this question forth. So Gladys, what is piao piao?
Piao is floaty, floaty, dreamy, dreamy, whimsical, imaginative, vibe energy that is often used to describe my works.
And Vivian, what's the dream director and artist to work with on your next audio work?
Local director, I would like to work with Yeo Siu Hua. Like I'm a fangirl since House of Straws. If you're watching, maybe not.
Chris, if you're watching, Vivian is an awesome film scorer. Zoe, if you were to have tea with a director dead or artist dead or alive, who would that be?
Tarkovsky, and then bonus, call his father also.
Because his father is the writer, right?
Yeah, he's the father's the writer.
Amazing. Gladys, best beverage to watch this micro shot with?
Anything with alcohol in it.
So Gladys, what is the worst beverage to watch this micro shot with?
Anything with too much alcohol beyond your tolerance.
That applies to everything, I imagine. Vivian, what's your current obsession?
This FPS game called Valorant.
Zoe, what's your current obsession on Spotify?
Circles by Post Malone.
Circles by Post Malone. See, you're a person of culture. And Gladys, 3 words to those who haven't caught this micro shot.
Why leh?
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. Gladys, Zoe, Vivian, thank you so much for coming to this fall of Art Science on Screen for this wonderful final installment of Art Science on Screen micro commissions for this year, and really trusting us with the presentation of your work is so amazing. I really appreciate you guys for being here with us tonight. So is there anything exciting that you're working on now that you'd like to share with everyone? The floor is open for you. Chilling? Okay. Now, for our own shameless plug, so if you've thoroughly enjoyed today's session or are keenly interested to find out more about what's good and fresh in the realm of moving images, so please check our Art Science on Screen page at the Art Science Museum website. So we have all 4 micro commissions all up on the website for you to watch anytime and rewatch anytime. So please go there and watch everything over and over and over again. And it's time to binge, so please do that. And we have also an awesomely curated season of films this November titled New Ways of Seeing. And this is curated by our lovely programmer, Rachel. If Rachel, you're there to show your face, everyone would love to see it. So these films turn the canonical norms of the male genius in the art world on its head with a trio of amazing women artists, Ruth Asawa, Anna Campbell-Bliss, and Hilma af Klint. So come see how some of their works have actually directly impacted certain movements in the art circles that we know and love today. So we would really love to see you here at the museum. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.